Hey you guys, Kristen here. Sorry for the delay. Our internet's been in and out all day with this crappy weather here in South Florida. Happy Friday. So as I promised, I'm on here live today in the Nutrition and Mindset Support Group to talk all about intermittent fasting, the good, the bad, and the truth in terms of how it supports or impedes weight loss. And I'll discuss both sides here. And so guys, I like to always tell you guys is I try to keep this as simplistic as possible. And I really try to focus on the weight loss aspects of intermittent fasting since many people work with me for weight loss purposes. I do help a lot of people improve their health as well. I could speak for hours and hours about the health benefits of intermittent fasting. But today I'm really going to focus a lot on the weight loss aspects of intermittent fasting, and I will touch a little bit on the health parts, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this super, super hot topic, and thank you for those of you who requested that I talk about intermittent fasting, all right? So first thing I want to tell you is the good facts of intermittent fasting, okay? And then I'm going to get into as well like what intermittent fasting is, etc., as I go through the process here. So one of the best aspects of intermittent fasting, IF as some of us call it, is that it promotes cell turnover, okay? And it kills off all the bad cells in our body, which we call autophagy, right? That's what that is. We're getting rid of dead cells. And so in our society, we are so hell-bent on detoxing. We do all kinds of juice cleanses. We drink apple cider vinegar. We do all these things that promote detoxing, right? We do body wraps, like you name it, people do it. Truth be told, fasting is the best way to detox. Every time we're eating something or drinking something, even just like stepping into the atmosphere, okay, we are putting toxins of some sort into our body, right? And so fasting is really imperative for health and longevity, as I wrote here, because when we're not eating, we're killing off bad cells, number one, and number two, we're not ingesting lots of toxins, right? Or I shouldn't say everything's a toxin, but we're giving our body a chance to heal, right? When we're not eating foods. And so tons of research has shown that one of the best ways to fight off disease is through fasting, right? And so actually one of the biggest experts in fasting in terms of, for cancer patients, for example, people with Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, fasting's impact on the brain, on the immune system is Dr. Walter Longo. He actually wrote the longevity diet, and he is known for studying all the blue zones, all the longest living civilizations in the world. And he is one of the biggest proponents of fasting. Not because these particular civilizations fast, that was part of his research, but he also has done a lot of research on fasting. And that's an amazing book if you're interested more in the effects of fasting on stem cells, for example. But I should say this now, I guess, that intermittent fasting has been shown to increase stem cells in our body, which those of you who are familiar with stem cells is important for helping recovery in the body as well. Okay, a lot of people get stem cells injected into the body. One of the easiest ways to produce your own is to practice intermittent fasting or fasting, and I'll talk about the different parts of that. Okay, so intermittent fasting is great for health and for longevity. It can definitely help us live longer. What is really awesome about intermittent fasting for weight loss purposes is that it really helps decrease habitual and mindless eating. So those of you who wake up in the morning and you eat breakfast out of habit, you might not even be hungry in the morning, but you're just eating breakfast because you think it's the most important meal of the day. Intermittent fasting actually negates that claim that was made, it seems like hundreds of years ago, right? So that's one of the benefits of intermittent fasting. It really teaches you not to eat out of habit or eat because you're on a certain time clock. You eat when you set that window. And also for mindless eating at nighttime. I've worked with a lot of people that at nighttime, they're in the pantry getting chips and they're eating sweets and they're eating things that they know they shouldn't be eating, and they don't really know why they're doing it even. It's mindless eating, right? I mean, usually they're eating because they're tired, right? And they're craving carbs and sweets. But that is something that intermittent fasting helps with, because if your window is, let's say, 12 to 8 p.m., you're not going back in the pantry, hopefully, and you're gonna, eat less calories throughout the day. So those people that are known to be chronic nighttime eaters, right, intermittent fasting can help them as long as they're consistent with their intermittent fasting, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit too. Also, what I really like about intermittent fasting is the flexibility that it provides with, the time intervals and windows. So there are many ways to practice intermittent fasting. So for example, some people, what they'll do is 5 days a week, they eat a normal diet, you know, anywhere from 1,500, 2,000, whatever their caloric requirement is. They'll eat a regular day. And then 2 days a week, you know, they'll do 500 to 600 calories a day, right? That's actually something that Walter Longo talks about in his book, right? And a lot of other doctors have talked about that kind of fasting. That is one form of intermittent fasting. Some people take it to a greater extreme. One day they eat, you know, 2,000 calories, the next day is 500 calories, and they alternate, right? The most popular way to do intermittent fasting is the 16-hour fast, 8 hours of eating, right? And some people do 10 to 6. Some people do 11 to 7, 12 to 8. I used to work with a personal trainer, and she would do 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. because she was up at 4 a.m. every day for work, right? So it really depends on your lifestyle. But that's what's cool about intermittent fasting is you can kind of make it however you want, right? And, you know, you can kind of figure out how many meals you want to have in that 8-hour window. You know, some people prefer like 1 or 2 meals a day, and that's it. Jack Dorsey, he's the CEO of Twitter. He has actually attributed intermittent fasting to his success and his focus and his energy levels. And I think he actually does 1 meal a day, if I'm not mistaken, but there are plenty of people. Thomas DeLauer is a guy that talks all about intermittent fasting. I think he does like a 22-hour fast. Everyone kind of does, you know, their own thing, like what works for them. But, you know, the typical, you know, 16-8 is very standard, okay? I know Jillian Michaels, she's funny. She's like, I can only do 14 hours. 14 hours is my max, and then I do 10 hours of eating, right? So everyone's different when it comes to that. So that's what the cool thing about intermittent fasting. Some people, what they'll do is, you know, a few times a year, they won't eat for 4 or 5 days, you know, and they'll do a liquid fast. So there's all different ways to do it, which is cool. It gives us some flexibility. What I love too for teaching people about hunger cues. In our society, food is everywhere. We have really forgotten what it means, most of us, I have to say, not everybody, what it means to be really hungry. So, you know, if someone is going to ask you, like, you know, how hungry are you right now? Some people are like, I don't know what that means, right? We really don't know. So we're just used to eating at certain times. We're used to eating snacks all the time. And so intermittent fasting, it teaches us to eat, you know, in a certain restricted time. And so you're usually hungry at that time because you've been fasting, right? So that's what I do like about intermittent fasting. All right, so the not so great things about intermittent fasting. First of all, it doesn't teach nutrition. So intermittent fasting is not a diet. I want to make that very, very clear because it doesn't tell you what to eat in that 8-hour window or what 2 meals a day to eat. What about snacks? What about liquids? Whatever. It is just a time, right? And so that's one thing that I don't like about intermittent fasting because people will ask me, like, what do I eat? I'm intermittent fasting, but now what? Okay? Because the truth is, if you're still eating pizza and wings and Cheez-Its for 8 hours a day, guess what? You're not going to lose any weight. I have worked with plenty of people and have talked to many people who have gained weight, myself included, in the past, doing intermittent fasting, right? It's not for everybody if you don't know what to eat, okay? Or you're not doing the right things in terms of exercise as well. Also, some people struggle with consistency. You know, they're able to do intermittent fasting, you know, that 16-8 window, for example, for a week, okay, or a few days. And then the weekend comes up and they're like, oh, well, I'm out till 1 a.m., so I'm going to eat pizza at 1 because I'm hungry. Or they're traveling for work during the week and they would love to stick to a 10 to 6 window, but they have a 7:30 work dinner. So then they're like, okay, well, now what, right? And so when they're thrown off a schedule, it kind of it impedes their progress, right? And they fall off the wagon. And so that's one of the downsides of intermittent fasting, especially if you are so, you know, set in your ways, okay? It can definitely throw you off. I also will say too, like, this is not on my board, but it's, you know, it's not for everyone's lifestyle, you know? Like, I've worked with some moms that are up, you know, nursing their kids a couple of nights or a couple times during the night, right? And then, you know, they're not supposed to eat, you know, until 10 a.m. They've been up all night, right? And then stop at 6, like, that doesn't really work for them, right? So again, like, you know, that's one of the downsides of intermittent fasting. It's not for everybody. Also too, and this is particularly why I don't do intermittent fasting for me, because, and not so much overeating part, but if you are waiting until you are super, super hungry to eat, which is at 12 p.m. for some people that do intermittent fasting, you know, you're going to eat everything in sight because you are starving, right? And so you are more likely, I should say, to overeat. And then when we overeat, we feel super bloated, and we're eating really fast. And so we're actually swallowing 50% air, which contributes to the bloating as well. So that is one of the downsides of intermittent fasting, especially if you work out at 7 a.m., okay, 7 to 8, and then you're gonna wait until noon to eat. You're gonna be famished by noon, most likely, and then eat everything, right? So that's one of the downsides of intermittent fasting. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here, guys. So the truths about intermittent fasting, okay, and really to sum all this up for you. Number one, it is awesome for health. Like, there is so much evidence out there, and I can even post some articles here for you guys to look at if you'd like, that shows that IF is great for your health, okay? That is undeniable, no one can argue that. But it's not necessary for weight loss, right? You do not have to do intermittent fasting to lose weight. And some people I've worked with have loved it, and others it doesn't work for them, right? And that's the key. The thing with intermittent fasting is that you must be in a caloric deficit, just like any diet out there, guys, whether it's keto, whether it's South Beach, whether it's Atkins, Mediterranean, paleo, I don't even know, cabbage soup diet. Well, hopefully you're in a caloric deficit. What I mean by caloric deficit is that you are eating less calories than you are you are expending more calories than you're eating, okay? So that's what I mean by caloric deficit, right? And so that usually happens for my habitual eaters, right? If you're not eating at nighttime, and if you're not eating mindlessly in the morning without being hungry, yes, you will lose weight because you're taking out those meals, right? And that's sometimes how IF helps people lose weight, because you are taking out meals that you don't really need, right? And that's when it's helpful. But if you have a really good control of your hunger and you only eat when you're hungry, intermittent fasting might not be necessary for you. I don't need to do intermittent fasting because I'm really in tune with my hunger. I eat when I'm hungry, I stop when I'm full, end of story, right? That's just how I roll. All right, and then last but not least, guys, what works for some people doesn't work for everybody. And I really want to be clear on that. I find, for example, in my experience working with clients, men are much better at intermittent fasting than women. Women tend to get hangry way more easily than men, right? I am one of them. My husband could easily hold off eating till 3 or 4 p.m. Me? Hell no, right? Also, like, I'm just much more active than he is. He's sitting more on his computer during the day. So that's why I need to eat more in the morning, more on my feet. So we have to understand, like, just because your friend lost 25 pounds doing intermittent fasting, she probably was doing other things besides intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has to be paired with something, right? It has to be eating healthy, exercising, and staying consistent, because what we do consistently is who we will become. And unless you can do something consistently, you're not gonna know if it works for you or not. You're not gonna see those long-term results, okay? So please don't rely on intermittent fasting to lose weight, but it is definitely a tool to help you improve your health and lose your weight if you implement it properly, okay? But like I said, you have to know the right foods to eat, you have to have the right fitness routine as well, some kind of moderate exercise, and you have to stay disciplined as well. Okay, Monica, I see you join me. If you have any questions, now's a great time to ask me. If you're watching this and catching the replay, you can post a comment here, and then I will answer that as soon as I see it, okay? Iman just dropped on. Hi, Iman, how are you? All right, guys, I am gonna hop off here. My sister is visiting from DC, so I'm gonna go pick her up here in a little bit, and we'll enjoy some wine when we come back. Super excited for that. But if there are no questions, I will go ahead and hop off here. But like I said, guys, I love to answer your questions. It warms my heart. And I want to thank you guys for this request to talk about intermittent fasting in the group. Next week, I am going to talk about salt, okay? Because I have a client I'm working with right now who has high blood pressure. She's not the first nor the last that has high blood pressure, major problem in our country. And, you know, we were at the grocery store and she's saying, well, I can't eat this, I can't eat that because it has salt in it. And I was like, okay, because there's a lot of things that contribute to high blood pressure besides salt, right? So I'm gonna talk to you guys about the truth, the good, the bad, and the truth about salt next week, okay? But if there are no questions about intermittent fasting, I'm gonna pop off here. I hope this was helpful for you guys, and have an amazing weekend. If you do intermittent fasting and you have, some comments you'd like to share about your results from it, whether it worked for you, if it didn't work for you, why, go ahead and share your stories in the group, guys. I really love hearing your stories, and your stories inspire people in the group. That is what this group is all about, is to inspire each other and lift each other up and share our experiences, right? Although we should never compare ourselves to others, it is nice to know that we're all on this health and maybe weight loss journey together, and we have this community to help each other. All right, have an amazing weekend. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.